Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's office hour. Yeah, so from when last we had an office hour till now, we've had a bunch of resources being published on the LMS. There are also tasks that have been published on the LMS. So I expect that everyone would be extra busy and also pumped with a lot of questions right now, if any. I plan to actually have a live demonstration today on using the Dart sheet, just so that I could help you guys to be able to use it in the best way, right? The cheat sheet is actually very, very helpful. It's packed with so much that could help you along the way in your programming journey. And myself, once in a while, I go back to just refresh the knowledge that I presently have, just to it's never bad for you to go back to refresh your knowledge, right? So I also go back once in a while to just take a look and see what's going on here. We're not exactly going to go through every single thing in the cheat sheet, but we'll try to cover most of the things that exist in most of the things are in line with the resources for week 2. But yeah, okay, there's a question that was left using the form. I guess we could take that first before going into anything. I think that would be fine. So I'm going to, the question was, there are 2 questions. One is, what is the major difference between declaring a variable final and const? And then the second question is, in one of your videos, you said final must not be left uninitialized at the point of declaration, but I noticed that it can be left uninitialized. All right, so I'm just going to copy the question and paste it in my Dart pad so we could go through it together. Where is that? Okay, I'll be resharing my screen now. Please do confirm in the comment section that you can see my screen. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Let me get the question and paste. Okay. Oops. Oops. Just so that doesn't happen again. just do that. Okay, let me put this element. Let me. How do you do a multi-line comment again? Okay, I think that's it. Oops. Right. Sorry for all that. Okay. So yeah, like I said, there were two questions that were asked. The first question here is, what's the major difference between declaring a variable final and const? For those just joining, this question was asked using the form, and I am going to try to answer to the best of my ability right now. Okay. So the first question, difference between a final and a const. They actually are pretty much the same, but the major difference between both is variables that are declared with const for one are immutable, right? After you have declared a variable using the const keyword, you cannot reinitialize that variable, if that makes sense. You cannot reinitialize a variable that has been declared with const. Here is an example. So if I were to declare a string, right? Say const name, give it a variable of, give the variable name, give the name of the variable name. Okay, let me use something else so that we don't confuse each other. So the name of this variable here is fruit, and I've assigned it a value of apple, which is a string. Now, if I attempt to assign this orange, there's going to be an error because it says const variables can't be assigned a value. Try moving the assignment or remove the modifier const from the variable. This has already been initialized and we cannot reinitialize it. Plus, variables that have been declared with the const variable are the variable is made constant at compile time. That is at the point where this code, if we're actually in using an editor, even in this case, this variable is constant at the point where your code is being compiled. At the point where your code is being compiled, if that makes sense. So in a sense, this is I'm looking for the right word to use to better describe what a const variable is. This is frozen, right? This is still, it's immutable. You can't change it. You can't change it after it has been declared, after your code has been compiled. It's pretty much going to be, this fruit variable is always going to be apple at any time that you run your code or at any time that you call this variable name, if that makes sense. And as for final, going by this second question, it says in one of your videos, you said final must not be left uninitialized at the point of declaration, but I noticed that it can be left uninitialized, excuse me, which is true. You can actually declare a final variable, say color, and give it a color of pink, right? So now after declaring this variable, just like you have for the const, you cannot reinitialize this variable because it has already, if you see here, it says the final variable color can only be set once. Try making color non-final because this has already been declared with a value. since this variable has already been declared with a value, it cannot be reinitialized. You can't set it more than once. But if I do not give this a value, it's possible to assign a value to this variable much later in the code. Okay, I'm confused why certain people in the comment section are mistaking the mobile office hour for front-end Python. This class is for the mobile track, not for front-end and Python. So it's okay if you do not want to be a part of it. All right, so from the two different, from the explanation of const and final, is it clear or is anyone here still confused? Okay. Okay, everywhere is silent, so I'm just going to assume that it is clear so far. If any question does pop up in between, feel free to leave the question in the comments and I'll check it out. Okay, let me open up the Dart cheat sheets. I had it open somewhere. Let me copy the link and paste it here. Okay, someone says, can you explain what compile time is? Compile time, like when you say at the point where a code is compiled, is pretty much when you run your code, really. When at the point where you run your code, either you are running the code on Android or you're running it on iOS or you're running it on the web, as long as you're running the code, like that's when it is being compiled to whichever platform that you're running it on, if that makes sense. If you're having multiple strings, then you would most likely be using the variable, the data type of list. With a list, you could have a list of pretty much any data type that exists, either a string or an int or double. By now, using the resources, you should actually know some of the data types that exist. But according to your question, we're looking at a list of strings, say fruits. In this case, you could have multiple strings inside of your list. You could have mango. You could also have apple. You could also have orange. So if you were to print this, you would see a list of strings. I hope that answers your question. Hi, Isaiah. If you're not seeing task on your dashboard, it's not normal. Please select mobile as an elective. Enroll for the mobile for the filter track so that you'll be able to see posts and tasks that have been assigned to the track. This is not a front end this is not a front end class, but it also applies to you. Whichever front end track you applied for, if it's the full stack or if it's just the front end, you're supposed to select enroll for the track, go to your profile, and you would see where you can enroll for a course or a track. Okay. So that said, I hope everything so far has been clear. I wouldn't want to move forward with anyone having lingering questions. I personally prefer to declare variables with a data type, but in the case where you probably may not know which isn't, I always prefer to assign a data type to whatever variable that I am creating, but you could also declare your variable like this, and it would still be correct without having to add whether it's a list or whether it's a string, just like we did here. Just like we did here, without having to state whether this, even though this is a string, we didn't necessarily assign the data type before the variable. But without assigning the data type already, this knows that it's a string because a string was assigned to it. If I were to change this to a number, it knows that this variable is an integer, a number. If I were to change this to double, it knows that this variable is a double. So with that, yeah, you can declare variables without having to explicitly state what data type it is, and it would know based off the variable that was assigned to it. But I personally just prefer to always assign a data type to my variables. It just helps things to not be complicated. For example, excuse me, if I were to declare this variable, let's say height. If I were to declare this, this variable height, if I assign it a string, you see that there's already an error because it says a value of type string can be assigned to a variable of type double. In this case, I can't mistakenly assign a different data type to a variable that is not supposed to accept that data type. So here we've already assigned it a double. We cannot go ahead later in the code to assign a string to it or even to assign an int to it. Oh, sorry. Usually this can pass for a double, but if I were to declare this an int and I give it a double of 5.0, it would flag it that you cannot assign a type double to an integer. For a double with the modified dots, you can assign a value like this to a double. You can assign a value like this to a double, but you don't have this variation if you were to assign this variable an int data type. Okay. Do mobile developers work with backend developers? I think we've already talked about this in previous office hours. I don't think I would continue to answer questions that have already been answered. Hi, Abbie. Can dynamic be used instead of this to declare a string of const variables? I'm not sure I understand that question. Can dynamic be used instead of list to declare a string of const variables? Well, okay. You can use, let me just take out this error. You can for sure declare a variable with dynamic, right? It's possible to do this. Dynamic is a way in which you can declare a variable. You can also use var to declare a variable like so. Who are the people on the call? Let me use your names. Okay, me. Who else? Cephia. Okay. So here's the clear difference between a variable that was declared as dynamic and one that was declared with the var keyword. Note that at this point where the variable is declared, even though I have clearly assigned it a string, you see, if I were to use, let me use this two that were previously declared, the fruit and fruits. With the fruit here, we see that it has, even though we didn't explicitly state the data type, a data type of string has been assigned to this variable due to the value that we gave to it. If I already gave the example that if we're to assign it a 5, it knows that this variable is an integer based on the value that was assigned to it. But this variable that was declared with dynamic, it's always going to be a dynamic value. I could go ahead now and I think I can do this and assign it a 5, and it's not going to throw an error because we have not, dynamic is pretty much a what's the word? A free ranger. You could assign it whatever data type that you want to assign to it at any point in time, which I would always not, which I would never recommend that you give your variable type, you assign a variable using dynamic because anything can happen at compile time. Anything can happen while your code is running. And it just might break your code when things are not explicitly stated, especially when you use the dynamic keyword. You see, like this is already pretty messed up. If I were to use this in my code, say for example, what's a use case? What's a use case? Okay, nothing is coming to mind right now, but we can already see the possible chaos of these two having first initializing the variable with, okay, let me use this. Say we have age, and then we give this an age of 20, and then we come here and we assign age a string of 20, for example. And then say we want to subtract the person's age from the present year to get the possible dates that they were born, right? So maybe we want to get value of date of birth, DOB. And then to get that, we want to subtract 2020 by age. Okay, If we were to do this, let's see what the result would be. Okay, which is clear. This is an expected error because we're seeing the last assigned value to age was a string, and we're trying to subtract a number from a string, which is logically not possible. Or someone says to zoom. How is it better? Hi, Josiah, is it better now? Okay, awesome. All right, so to explain what's going on here, we initially assigned the value of 20, an integer, a number, to the variable age that was declared with the dynamic keyword. Then later on in our code, we assigned it a string. Later on in our code, we assigned it a string. Now we're trying to get the value of the user's date of birth. Ideally, to do that, you would subtract the present year with the person's age that was given, right? But in this case, age was declared as a string already, like it was modified to a string. And now we're getting the error that 20 of type string is not a subtype of type num, which pretty much the error is saying you cannot subtract a string. You cannot subtract, you cannot carry out this operation using a string. Now, this is one major problem with declaring your variable with dynamic. It can cause errors for you along the way, and we do not want that. But if we were to use var, let's switch this up and just comment this out and give this a variable of, okay, let's just do that below. Say we have age, and we give it a value of 20. We can't come here and reassign the variable age. We can't give it a value of string, just as the error says. A value of type string can be assigned to a variable of type int. So the var keyword recognizes, I don't know if there's a way to hide. Okay, there is. So the var keyword recognizes that age is an int, but the dynamic variable will always be dynamic at any point in your code. So with this, we can, if we're going to reassign it, we can only reassign it with an integer, and then it would pass. So if we were to run this, we're expecting a value, which is correct. I hope this I hope this little demonstration was able to explain the difference between dynamic and var. If it was, please let me know. Okay, awesome. All right, so we've actually covered quite a number of things so far. Just as a recap, we've covered the difference between declaring a variable as final or const. We also went through the difference. We also covered the difference between declaring your variable as var and as dynamic. Oh wait, there's a question. How do we submit the link to our Datapad instance? Okay. So if I were to copy this link now here, and I create a new tab and I paste the link, it's going to be the exact same state that it was, like the exact same state of the previous page that we copied the link from. So that's all I want that's what I expect, that you copy, when you're done writing your code, you copy the link and you submit it. It's always going to be the instance of Datapad that you copied from. That's what it's always going to be anytime you open the link, if that makes sense. All right, you're welcome. Okay. So I was saying that I would just quickly run through some things that we have in the Dart cheat sheet. Someone mentioned that the that the link is, yeah, regardless, the link you copy, the URL you copy is always going to be that instance. What didn't work, please? I need you to be more specific. You copied this link. Okay, you know what? I'm going to copy and paste this in the chat. You're going to see a comment as Abigail Noyelim. Take that link, paste it in your browser and see what comes up. Can you all see the link that I pasted? Hello. Okay, that's weird. Okay, let me paste it on Slack. Someone try to follow the link and let me know if you can. Let me know if you'd see everything that we have done so far. That's interesting. With the link that I pasted in on Slack, Oh, that's interesting. I'll look into it and I'll get back to everyone. Just don't worry about it for now. I'll look into it and get back to everyone. Okay. All right, no problem. It's fine. I would look into it and I would get back to everyone. Okay. Is there any other questions so far before we go into some things on the cheat sheet? Oh, I see. All right. Oh, all right. Don't worry. I'll look into it after the class, and I'll most likely leave a post on the LMS as a guide on how to submit your code using Darkcloud. Just don't worry about it. Let's move on from it, please. So any other questions? We have about 22 minutes left for our office hour. Okay. So yeah, I just what didn't you understand, Miriam? While you're typing your question, I'm just going to go on. Okay, so I'm just going to cover like the first maybe 3 things that we see here on in the cheat sheets. I saw someone leave a comment on Slack that said they didn't understand the cheat sheet at all, but well, just patience, right? So it pretty much just helps to understand some fundamental features of the Dart language. For example, we have here string interpolation. With string interpolation, you can add different expressions inside of your string. What do I mean? Say, for example, here we have created, let's use this variable that we already have going on here. Oh, no. Sorry. Let's use this string that we already have going on, that's date of birth. Say we have a string of human. Please ignore my ability to create intelligence, to give intelligence variable names right now. But yeah, so say we have a string with the variable name human, and we want to say this human was born in the year Now I want to take this value here. Everywhere is looking so clumsy. Anyway, I want to take this value here of DOB and I want to display the value with this string, like this human was born in the year, the result of the subtraction of these two values. So what I would use is the dollar symbol, and then I can patch in whatever value comes from the subtraction of these two integers. So if we're to print human, we'd see this human was born in the year 1993. But if I were to remove this dollar sign, obviously we're expecting this human was born in the year DOB. To be able to get the value of this expression, we need to assign it a dollar. We need to give it a dollar symbol. We need to add a dollar symbol to the end, to the beginning of the variable, and then only then can we get the value of this variable here. That is the whole idea of string interpolation, right? So it says to put the value of an expression inside a string. Say, what's the word? So now, okay, let's use this. Let's use the first value of this list. So this is a list, and usually in programming, a list starts from the index of 0. So Abbie here is in index 0, Opeyemi is in index 1, and Sefiat is in index 2, right? Now, say I want to display the value this my name is, I want to display the first string inside of the list. For certain, I know I cannot just do my name is names because I can't get the value of this variable without the dollar symbol. Now, if we're to print this, we're going to see in the console, my name is the list of names that have been assigned to this variable. But if we were to get the variable at index 0, from what I explained, index 0 is the first value in a list. To get the, To get the value at index 0, we'll need to use what we call square brackets. And then we'll put in the value of 0. Now, this is actually also a wrong way. This is wrong because if we're to run this now, we would see something funny. So this is wrong in trying to get the value of the item in index 0. So what we do is we'll wrap this in curly braces, then would put in the variable in there, and then we can run it and get the value in index 0. Here's the reason. I think it was explained here. It says, if the expression is an identifier, you can omit the curly braces, else we would need the curly braces. So this is an identifier, right? So if we're just to get a single value from the variable, say we just want to get the value of fruit, for example, we would not need the curly brackets. We can just do fruit, and it would give us the value that's in there. But if you want to go deeper into a variable, for example, a list, we would need to use the curly braces to be able to access more properties or more options that a variable can offer. Did I just confuse everyone? Please let me know if you're confused so I can take multiple steps back. Okay, Josiah says he's confused. Okay, let me explain it one more time. So for example, the initial variable, the initial string we had, let's just do something. So this here is an identifier, right? You could easily get the value of this string by using the dollar symbol. Without the dollar symbol, it's just going to be a plain word, a plain string. But attaching the dollar symbol means we're trying to get the value of this identifier, of this variable, right? And if the variable doesn't exist, it is for sure going to throw an error, okay? So to get the value of this variable, we use a dollar sign to access it. Hence, if we print this, we're going to have my name is Abbie, right? Now, if there are extra properties that would want to access, if there are extra properties of it could be a variable, it could be a string, it could be whatever, it could be a list, it could be a map. If there are extra properties of an identifier that we want to access, we can't just use a plain dollar symbol. We would need to add curly brackets. This pretty much helps us to, what's the word? This pretty much helps us to access the value of internal properties or whatever variable that we are trying to get its value, right? So say, for example, we want to get the first value of this names string. It could also be, the second. It could be the last, right? If we were to run this, we're expecting to see my name is Sefiat, right? So for us to be able to access other properties of a variable, of an identifier, we would need curly brackets. Else, without the curly brackets, it's just going to be the list of names and then a variable, a string dot last. We can't access its properties without the curly brackets. Hope that makes sense now. If you want to print a dollar symbol, then you would have to escape. You have to escape the character. Say you have this. Oh, no, escape is backslash, I think. Is it back or forward slash? I can't remember. Okay, it's I can't really remember which it is to escape a character. Let's see. Expected an identifier. I can't remember. Let me see. How to escape characters in parts. I use forward slash now. I use forward slash now. No, is this an error? I'm not sure why. Let's see. There's no answer here. Yes, apparently you can also use dots first instead of having to use the direct index. What's going on? What am I missing? Okay, I'm clearly missing something for this to still be breaking. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm missing. If it's a backward or forward slash. Let's see. I know, we're trying to escape it. I'm clearly missing something. But ideally, to escape a character, you use either a backward or a forward slash. Not sure why it's not working at the moment. But yeah, I would figure it out after the call, and I would leave a comment. I'll leave a comment alongside the info on that part. Comments, we use forward slashes here. This dynamic age equals 20 this is a comment, and I used 2 forward slashes to comment out a code. Then if you want to have a multi-line comment like I have here, you use a forward slash. I think this is called asterisk. And then you close it up with 2 asterisks and then a backward slash. So these are multi-line comments. There's a single line comment. I think there's one extra kind of comment, the documentation or so. Yeah. So these are the 3 different kinds of comments that we have in Dart. Is it supposed to be before? Oh, I did it after. Oh, that's it. Bless your heart, Temilade. Oh, yeah. Ready to run. Yes. Sorry, for some reason I put the I put the forward slash, the backward slash after the character. It was supposed to be before. Thank you so much, Temilade. That really helped. I was starting to think like, what was really wrong? But yeah, you're right. You're totally right. Thank you so much for clearing that out. This is a forward slash. This is a forward slash. This is a backward slash. Right? Yeah, this is forward. This is back. Oh, to escape a character. So say, for example, I have a variable money, right? And the money is in total 5,000. But this money is supposed to be in dollars, for example. I can't, the dollar symbol is already it's a special character in Dart, right? So if you are going to use it as a plain string, then you would need to escape the character, more like telling the Dart compiler that, hey, I'm not using Dart in this case as a special character. I'm not using the dollar symbol in this case as a special character. I want to just use it as a basic string, as a plain string. So in that case, we'd need to escape the character and then assign this to it. So there we can have, oh, sorry, my name is $5,000. Ignore the string, please. But I'm just trying to give an example here. So in this case, we can assign this dollar symbol to our money variable here. Here we've told that please just make this a plain string, right? Don't see it as a special character. So that is exactly how it's going to be compiled when we either display it in our app or display it in the console. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, so thank you, Timladi. All right. So so next we still have the whole of next week. We still have the whole of next week to go through the resources that have been shared for week 2. So we have, I mean, throughout we have the whole of the coming week to go through to talk about the resources that have been shared for week 2. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. I am more than willing to go through the questions with you. Our next office hour is on Tuesday. So yeah, our next office hour is on Tuesday. So please go through the resources. If you can already get started with your task, even better. But let's try to start off with our tasks early on so that we do not have so much at hand at the dime minutes, right? All right, thank you all so much for joining the office hour today. We have 3 minutes before the end. Thank you so much. We'll see on Tuesday. Bye, guys.